A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Second hour, Thursday morning, 1st of February. Relationship clinic ya wale ambao wanapendana. Muingie kama mmeshikana mikono. Last week kuna wale waliingia na hawajashikana mikono. Well, we are in for a good conversation this morning. We want to look at some of the common things, common issues that derail marriages. People get married, they're so in love. You can hardly keep them off of each other. And then a couple of months later, a couple of years later, people begin to drift apart. Why does that happen? Are there things that we ignore that tend to pull people apart and to derail marriages? Those are some of the things we want to be looking at today as we look at relationship pitfalls you and I need to avoid. In studio with us this morning, we have an amazing couple. They've been married for 23 years. They have a passion for relationships, relationship coaches they are, and they're here with us today to help us with this conversation. Francis and Triza Akuka, karibuni sana.
Asante.
Karibu niwaambie happy new year, lakini niliambiwa ikisha tu January hivi, don't start telling that one is gone. Yeah, it's good to have you.
Yes.
Karibuni sana.
It's a pleasure.
It seems like more and more marriages are having challenges in this generation. Why do you think that's the case? What's changed?
I don't think anything has changed. Marriage by design is going to be tested. Yeah. So according to our understanding of marriage for the years we've been married, both our marriage and the marriages of others we have encountered, one of the most important things to have in marriage is a strong foundation. I'm saying nothing has changed and marriage has to be tested. Every marriage that is released into the world is going to be checked for what it is made of. It's like that house that is built. The foundations always have to be tested.
Yeah.
The factors that are shaking marriages are many. They're numerous, depending on which part of the society we are living in. I am sure your marriage has been checked.
Enough times.
Those factors are like waves, the waves of the sea. They'll always come and test. And usually after a storm, there are usually structures which fall and there are structures which remain standing. The difference between the two is usually the foundation.
Okay.
And foundation are things like your relationship with God and your value system. I have generally observed over the years that marriages for people who have a religious are leaning towards God tend to survive storms of life.
Okay.
And I know Christian marriages stand the storm, but also marriages of other, people who are religious in other religious, faiths also stand. My belief is that when you are a law unto yourself, when you believe that you are a frame of reference by yourself.
You are the Alpha and the Omega.
Yes. You are self-made. And in local Kenyan terms, haupangwingwi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's coming for you. It's coming. Marriages that have stood the shakings and the testing of foundations are marriages of individuals who have yielded their minds and their souls to a higher power, greater power. It means then you know that you're a custodian of this relationship. It doesn't start and end with you.
With you, yeah.
Yeah, you fashion your life after let's go.
Values.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, talking about values,
yes.
I'm just wondering, Triza, do couples need to sit down and communicate and agree on their values? Because sometimes I feel like we make assumptions, especially since both of us are born again. We have the ideal values that we say, this is my value, but kwa ground, vitu ni tofauti. So how do we clarify that?
Yeah.
You clarify that during the premarital stage. You see, in an ideal situation, you need to befriend each other, court, then get married.
Yeah.
Don't just like each other, then start living, and then now start checking things. You know, you go backwards. That's one of the fallacies that we see a lot today. People rush, and then now when things hit rock bottom, that's when now they start retracing their steps. But if you do it the right way, during courtship, those are the things you discuss. What are my dreams? What are our aspirations? What are our values? What do we think even about just worship? Because you can be two Christians, but you're worshiping differently.
Yeah.
You can be, because of your family of origin, you grew up with a very different experience. Maybe you're in a family that was really engaged, people sat together, ate together, did their things together, and you value that. The other person grew up in a totally disengaged family. Everyone operated on their own. So when you come, you have this expectation that I'll be sitting with you and eating together, and the other person is wondering, when you're hungry, just eat.
Yeah, si chakula iko huko.
Yeah, so small things like those ones can actually start building gaps, and then now it can even get to conflict. So when you're courting is the time to really discuss, what do we value, what do I believe in, what is important for me, what is not important for me, and now seek to develop common ground, such that now we have a general understanding. It's not that we want to limit you, you'll not be free to do the things you love, and the other person might not necessarily like, but at least you develop common ground on many things, then you have an easy time together.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. What about conflict? What if our values are conflicting or our dreams are conflicting? How do we, is that important to discuss and come to an agreement before you get married, or is it not that important?
Yes. The main purpose of going through a pre-marital phase is to check whether it's really necessary to, it's in your favor to marry this person. And if you discover that you're continents apart on issues like values, then why enter into it? The tragedy with especially the modern day relationship is tunaanza kwanza. we start with step 4, and then
we'll come back
we come back to step 1, and by the time you're realizing you're really already too committed. But the purpose of preparing for marriage is to check. My wife and I are involved in premarital counseling. We do that year after year after year.
Yeah.
And when we take people through premarital counseling, and we help them to, first of all, be self-aware. Who are you?
Who are you?
What's my makeup? Physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all that. What are my ideals, the values I've picked over the years? And compare. Just mirror those with those of your spouse.
Okay.
And we usually tell people that premarital counseling is not a rubber stamp process. You know, it's actually a mirror process. It's like you put a mirror before you and check. If you see that what you have and what I have, the mix is not working, then be gracious enough to say, this is as far as we can go in this relationship. Bye-bye, I wish you well in life, and so on. And look for someone who matches you. But that's not what people do.
I think sometimes people feel, I've invested so much. Wewe unajua ni coffee ngapi nimenunua? You know we've been at this thing for the last 2 years. You know, and you feel like, you know what, and then there's these emotions that I'm going through. Okay, yeah, I can see those things, but pia kuna zile feelings niko nazo juu ya huyu mtu. And you're thinking maybe marriage will make
it's usually change. Actually, most people, if you ask them, they're usually honest enough to say, I saw some red flags. I saw this, I questioned, but I thought the person would change. As in, we have to be realistic that it's very hard for an adult to really change.
Yes.
You need to accept that what I have is what I'm getting. It might even actually worsen a bit, because when someone relaxes, they are not in the pursuing mode. They might relax on some areas, or just age and life can catch up with them. So you don't budget for someone to change, and you don't have the power to change someone. That's what you have to tell yourself. So you accept what you get, or you say no. it's not worth it. Let me stop here and look for something else.
Okay.
Yes.
Somebody's asking, what about when the marriage is arranged? When you don't have that luxury of getting to know each other and things like that?
Strangely, arranged marriages have performed better.
Better.
By far. In all,
Why?
yeah, all societies.
Because arranged marriages, they're handled by others other than you. So they you see, if you're the one who's approaching someone for marriage, individuals tend to base it on, frivolous grounds, frivolous factors. I love, I'm madly in love, head over heels, and those things usually are temporary.
Hapana. But the thing is, love is a decision, really.
Yeah.
If you look at it strictly, it's a decision you make. It's not, the emotions are good and they are there.
Yeah.
I can still be excited when Francis is in the room, but that's not what sustains our marriage to stay together. It's the conscious decision that we want to make life easy for both of us that keeps us going over the years. So even if you're in an arranged situation, when you come and say, okay, we've got ourselves here, let's make this thing work, you find it actually works.
It actually works. It actually works. That is so true. Let's talk about handling conflict, because this is one area I find many people don't know how to navigate through it. I remember when I was doing my premarital class many years ago, and I think it was either lesson number 2. I think it was lesson number 2, and we were asked, how many of you here have never fought since you started relating? And the couple in front of us lifted their hands. And I remember how I thought, my goodness, this is what when you're dhambi. Because they've had some serious conflicts. And we felt like, when we grow up, maybe we'll be like them. But then the person who was taking us through the class told them, this week, please find reason
to have conflict.
Because there's a part of each other you have never experienced. And it's very important for you to experience it. It will open your eyes to some things. So how should couples handle conflict? Because it's part of the package.
Yes. There are two things about conflict. First of all, you need to decide what is a conflict and what is not. Conflict by itself, the presence of conflict does not grant the couple automatic success. The fact that you conflict does not necessarily make you a strong couple. There are people who enter into conflict and that becomes their Waterloo. They never come back. Yes. Conflict is to be avoided fast. And if it cannot be avoided, then it should be handled maturely and solved. Prevention is always better
than cure.
We know that not every couple who enters, who for example, fights over an issue normally succeeds to resolve it. And so, other than having the ability to solve every conflict, I think it's a greater virtue to see conflict coming and find bypasses, ways of avoiding that conflict. But if you cannot avoid, then you must fortify yourself with the ability to solve. What is a conflict? A conflict is a situation where your differences are permanent and they're looking like they will not be resolved.
Yes.
Conflict, for example, in the country of Kenya, conflict happened in 2007 when we had an election where the parties did not agree. And one person said, I won, the other person said, I won, and so on. And everyone stood their ground until we had to have somebody else say, hey, gentlemen, can we sit and and so on. There had to be a conflict resolution process. Not every difference you have in marriage is a conflict. She loves color yellow, I like color blue or black. That's not a conflict. Those are differences. There are differences you'll have to learn to live with. In fact, they are the spice of life. So don't go telling everyone, because her preferences are this and my preferences are this, we are really fighting. Those are not conflicts
to fight over.
We got married, let's say, in our 20s, those were 20 years of learning how to do things in the blue way,
Yes.
and 20 years of learning how to do things in the yellow way.
Yeah.
We're trying to merge those overnight. It's not going to happen. So that's not necessarily conflict. Differences in marriage need not necessarily translate into conflict.
So choose your fight.
Choose your fight, yeah. Yes, true.
Some fights are not worth fighting over. What about issues where the lady is not like God, who, when he forgives, he forgets? He throws your sins into the sea of forgetfulness. Some ladies have the tendency to regurgitate. You know, they forgave you, but they will remind you 16 times they forgave you. So how should that be handled?
It should be handled by just learning that in life, releasing someone frees you as the person who was offended. So if I'm offended and I keep offense, the common saying is, you're drinking poison and you're expecting the other person to fall down.
Yeah.
So you have to release the poison from your system or refuse to take it at all. Just like the Bible says, don't let the sun go down in anger. Just don't pile offenses. Release and forget. And try not to bring it up, because you're only tying yourself down. You're actually draining yourself of energy that you would have used to do something constructive. And it doesn't help, because if you keep yourself in that prison and the other person is enjoying life and you're wondering, like, why are you not moved?
In fact, as they enjoy life, you get more angry.
You get more angry instead of now you also releasing it, because you must always remember you're also not perfect.
Okay.
There are some things the other person is also overlooking. And not taking them to that extent you're taking. Yeah.
About forgiveness, I also want to say there has been a lie that has been sold to married people, that marriage is the place where you cannot forgive. Strangely, these people who say, I cannot forgive my spouse, have actually succeeded in forgiving in other environments. You have brothers and sisters, your relatives, you have workmates. And these people, you have had differences with them. But because that environment required that you set aside your differences and so that you can succeed, people have actually succeeded to forgive and moved on. They didn't dwell on one issue. You know, your workmates, you have big differences with them. And yet you stay in that work environment and you're able to say, okay, we are not agreeing on this one. Let's set this aside. Let's look at the common one where we agree and move on. But when it comes to marriage, a lie has been sold that this is where I can never forgive. Why is that so? And yet this is the person you share your most intimate everything with. So let's make our homes, our relationships, that place where we can easily forgive.
And
what happens, still on forgiveness, because sometimes I see, whenever we have this kind of conversations, mostly it's the women who ask this question. What about repeat offenders? I've forgiven 15 times over the same issue. He keeps saying he's sorry, but I think he's only sorry because he got caught. And then he comes and does it again. So how do you navigate through that?
It's challenging, but still, the Bible tells us, forgive 77 times 7, as in don't count. The thing is, that's where now you need to look for mediation. You need to get someone else to help, maybe someone you can be accountable to. Don't keep an issue to the two of you and you are suffering for a long time and it's something which is being repeated. Of course, there are some things which are really extreme, like let's say violence. You will not stay in a house, you're being beaten, and you say, he said sorry, and then tomorrow, you'll die. You'll actually be killed. So there's a level you have to now use wisdom and find out, I need extra help in this situation. I cannot just keep it between the two of us.
Okay. Relationship Clinic, we're hanging out with Francis and Teresa Akuka, and we are talking about some common blind spots, some common pitfalls in marriage that you and I need to be aware of and we need to avoid. I can see several people sending in questions this morning. Well, Malua, good to hear from you today. You say good morning, Pasi. When you talk about values, marriage values, do you mean the foundation of our marriage or common goals? Please explain more on this.
Marriage values are principles that govern how you live with each other. They are issues, things like service, selflessness, honesty and truthfulness, authenticity, empathy, knowing that you stepping into the shoes of your partner and seeing the world from their perspective, warmth, you know, the disposition that I will do good to you no matter what.
No matter what.
Those are values.
Okay.
Hard work and discipline, those are values. The one I am big about is service.
Service.
Because marriage, we don't enter into marriage to be served. We enter into marriage
to serve.
To serve. To make another person enjoy, you know, a lighter weight in life. I don't know why to some people, marriage was modeled as this place where I am going to get.
Ni kuvumiliana.
So if you come into marriage to get, then you are really in for a road
You'll
show.
be frustrated.
Yeah, but if you're looking forward to marriage as this institution where I'm going to give my very best, invest, you know, stretch myself to make another person happy and you know, fulfilled and so on, then you're not going to be disappointed.
True.
But if you're going in to get, then there's very little you're going to enjoy because, and that's what happens today. Everyone goes into marriage and starts saying, what can I get from here? You know, am I going to get respect, honor? Am I going to get
what
service?
Are you bringing to
what
the
are
table?
you bringing to the table?
And I'm only bringing 50%.
Yeah.
Instead of coming fully.
Yes.
You cannot enter into marriage half.
Yeah.
You have to give 100%.
Yes.
So don't come, give 100, then you have your 200 with God, then you have something really powerful. But if we give less than that, then we actually suffer. And maybe I can just mention briefly something like authenticity. We normally say authenticity in marriage is not like what the world says about authenticity. You know, like the common slogans people say, yes, we are honest, we are this and that.
Yeah.
But they actually mean the opposite. When people send a CV for work, they'll say, I'm hardworking. I am passionate. When you give them work
I don't need supervision.
in 1 hour,
supervision.
they are doing other things.
Yeah.
But in marriage, when you say something, you have to mean it and be honest and true.
It's like those government offices where you go in and the first sign you see, this is a corruption.
No corruption zone.
Free zone.
Yes.
Let's not go there. Julie, maybe Teresa, you can take this one. Julie says, good morning. I think my husband and I can't finish a week without a disagreement. And there are times we get tired of each other, but we still love one another. How can we find a way to avoid this frequent stepping on each other's toes and make our marriage better?
I think, Julie, you need to have an open discussion and get to the root of the issue, because that means it is symptoms which are coming, but there must be things which have not been resolved and now which come up as irritations. So the small disagreement would be maybe for something that is underlying that has not been, you've not had the courage to really put it on the table and address it once and for all. So you can find an opportune time to see if you can discuss it. If not, then it's always good to seek a third party to just have a discussion around it. Nowadays, we normalize therapy. You don't go to therapy or you look for a coach or a counselor when now
things are thick.
No, those small things, that's when you look for help or just reach out to someone and have that discussion.
Okay. Wendy is saying, Percy, please talk more about those red flags. I'm engaged to this guy. I really love him, but I've got two habits that are rubbing me the wrong way. The way he talks when we have a disagreement is one thing, and also he is not a patient person. Are these examples of red flags? Can he change, or am I in it for the long run?
The purpose of dating is to establish.
It's to collect data.
Yeah, to collect data.
Yes.
And check whether that data will serve your relationship. You know yourself. You know if, say, kindness or lack of kindness is a deal breaker for you, then you're not going to go very far.
True.
We like to say that marriage is like hot tea, and you, the individual, is like a tea bag. Yeah, the real you will be tested once marriage starts.
Yes.
Marriage tends to amplify who we are, because it's that place where tukiingia everyone, everyone opens their bags and, you
unpack everything.
Okay? So what you're seeing before you get married is a tip of the iceberg.
Ooh.
If you're seeing, and we like saying, for example, if when you're dating, this person tends to twist your arm, to pull your ear, and to do certain things that border on violence.
Yeah.
Wait till you get married. This person will throw stools at you.
They will slap you.
Slap you and hold a knife to your neck and whatnot.
Yeah.
So small things tend to get amplified when we get married.
Mm-hmm.
If that is not, it's not acceptable to you, address it now.
Yes.
And if it's not changing, then just know that that's a no-go zone for you. But also, point out these issues to your partner.
Yeah.
Say, I noticed this and this and this. Is this something you're struggling with? Sometimes partners need to be woken up with a little bit of a nudge or sometimes a bang on the head to know that, this is how I've always related with people. I didn't know this is something you do not like and whatnot. They may change or they may drop a habit.
Yeah.
Because habits can be picked and dropped. Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Great topic. How much authority and influence should other people have in our relationship? Udakuya Saloon and in-laws have been known to cause tension and even failure in many marriages. Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, so in marriage, we have what we call priorities and boundaries to respect. So when you are dealing with people, you will now have to just review how you engage socially, at work, with your spouse, with your relatives, and put appropriate boundaries so that if you just flow and let everything you're picking in the world influence how you operate in marriage, then you will have a challenge. But if you're intentional and you ask yourself, is this relationship adding value to us as a couple, and is it strengthening our marriage, then why not invest in it some more? But you need to pray to have that spirit of discernment that if this friendship, if this people I'm hanging out with are going to drain and derail our marriage, then I need to put some distance. Maybe those are people you will see only once in a while and not invest in them. Yeah, so just the wisdom to know which relationships to invest in, which ones to put away.
Okay. Yeah. Another issue that I've seen sometimes becomes quite huge in marriage is money. Money. People are so emotive about money. My money, their money, our money. Talk to us a bit about money.
Yeah, we all enter into marriage with a money mentality, money habits. Most of them, we have picked them from our surrounding. We saw how our parents were. Some of our parents, like we were brought up in a family where father would not remove the wallet and remove notes.
No.
He had to turn the other way and pull it out of the sight of everybody else. And so on. Maybe this other person has been brought up in a place where money was kept in one place.
Yeah.
And anyone can just go and pick, and so they learned honesty with money earlier. Openness and, openness with money and so on. So that needs to be synchronized. I tend to think that how we handle money is a product of how well we have gelled in marriage. Yes, how well we have gelled.
Okay.
How much we have trusted each other. If there are things in her that worry me, then I may not, if, for example, spending habits, that worry me, then I tend not to be very open with money. Najua nikileta hii pesa, ishapangiwa.
Hii imeenda hii.
Imeenda. And whatnot.
Yeah.
With money, there are no shortcuts. You have to talk, communicate. Be open both about sources of the money, and about expenditure. You need to know where your money is coming from. You need to know what your partner does to earn a living and be very comfortable with it. If I'm not comfortable with how you make your money, then problems are going to arise.
True.
And especially if I voice it to you, then you're going to always hide where
Yeah.
what your sources are.
Yeah.
But also expenditure. There is no other way other than, do the traditional things: budget, forecast, plan, and say our income. Is it meeting our expenditure? Are there gaps? What else can be done to fill those gaps? And things like, living within our means and so on. There are no shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking about infidelity. This is Sifa. What about infidelity? It's the only circumstance Christ allowed divorce. When is it enough? And you say now we can't be together.
Infidelity is usually a tricky and challenging topic for many people. Of course, we can cite the Bible there that Christ said, yes, you can live. And it's because of hardness.
Hardness of our hearts.
Hardness of our hearts. Because why would I take the trouble of taking you to the altar and declaring to the whole world, I am taking this to the exclusion of all others, and then tomorrow turn to others? Yeah, so it begins with selfishness and that global culture of people now saying, yeah, I mean, if I want to have another person, it's my right and there's nothing you can do about it. And it's really a breach of the marriage covenant. So the good thing is that infidelity is not the number one leading cause of divorce, actually. There are people who, when it's brought to their attention that what you're doing is a serious breach to the covenant of marriage and you should stop it, they actually repent and they actually
change.
Reform,
and they reform and they leave relationships. So the first thing would be to just address it, seek help to address it, and if the person is willing, to change completely, then they would be able to do it. But of course, if they continue, it can become very tough. But in that case, I think you just need the counsel of a mediator.
Yeah. These are not things that just happen suddenly.
Yeah.
These are things that begin to build up,
Yeah.
because of some of these things we are talking about. How do you deal with different personalities in marriage, an extrovert and an introvert?
Self-awareness. And that happens during courtship stage.
Yes.
Which this generation is trying to skip. We jump fast with our 2 feet.
We want instant things.
Yeah, we jump in and then we discover ourselves while we're
Once
already
we are
there.
in.
They are babies. We've already invested together and
my
so on. And then it becomes very difficult to synchronize. But you must go through the process of self-awareness, self-determination. Who am I? What is my makeup? I am a spiritual being. I am a product of nurture and nature.
Yes.
My environment, this is the environment I've been brought up with. My family of origin, this is who we are, kwa familia yetu, and so on. These are my strengths, my weaknesses, these are my proclivities, my tendencies, and so on. As an individual, I have fully mastered myself. Now, this other person who is coming, I've also mastered this person. Do these two personalities work? If you're trying to determine this when you already have 3 children, it's a bit tough. It's a bit tough. Then you'll have to do a lot of giving way to the other person. But if you had the opportunity to determine before you enter into this relationship with this person, then you have a better bargaining chip. That's what we can say. And determine before you enter. But if you find yourself in there, then I think you have to
just be more accepting of the other party.
Yes.
And try to see what you can do to live within it.
Yes.
I'm also wondering, how do you find yourself there, unless it's an arranged marriage? Because if you are dating, simlikuwa bado introvert na extrovert.
But pasi tunasema, people are glossing over dating these days. People are glossing over
They're
dating.
getting on the fast track.
People are starting this thing on high-speed lane and then slowing down when now the road gets bumpy.
Last year, my husband and I have had a really big fight, and it really affected us to the point we barely talked to each other. So in January, my husband came up with this thing of praying together every Wednesday and talking about anything and everything that's weighing us down. And let me tell you, January has been a blessing to us. The values and foundations you guys are talking about, I've seen and experienced them. Strong values really hold couples together, and communication does wonder. Great show, Pasi.
Yeah,
Awesome.
this is a very good comment. It gives hope to the ones who find themselves there, that for sure, if you are committed
And if
to
you're- yeah.
starting and doing the work, because you have to do the work.
True.
They started the prayers, they started the communication, and it works. Yeah.
Christians should not forget that there is a battle for the soul of their marriage.
Yes.
The enemy does not just go to sleep just because you married a fellow Christian.
No.
It's like you, Imeenda. No, Satan is always lurking around looking for an opportunity to make sure you are a statistic. You've been thrown to the garbage where every other marriage that does not have a strong foundation is. So, yes, you will have to pray for your marriage. Teresa and I, our heaviest prayers are usually towards the two of us.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of spiritual resources to just make sure that we present this marriage to God and so on. 23 years have not come as flukes.
True.
It's been a spiritual exercise for us as well.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Somebody's saying dating the campaign. Campaign ikiisha. We revert back to as you were. Parting shots. What can you say to encourage the couples who have been listening in today?
I would say that marriage is a blessing. It's a powerful institution. God intended to use the covenant of marriage to achieve great things on earth. And I think every couple should purpose to make their marriage exceptional. Give in yourself 100%. Don't go there giving a part of yourself. Give yourself fully. Invest in it. You're going in for the long haul. Imagine if you're living together for 50 years or 60 years.
Yeah.
Why make those the most miserable of all your years on earth?
Yeah.
They should be your best years. So invest in having the best.
Okay.
Yes, marriage is a blessing. Familiarize with the blessing. Many of us do not know the blessing of marriage.
Yeah.
We know about the pitfalls and the challenges.
Yes.
In fact, Teresa and I, commonly when we are approached by couples who want to walk this journey, they usually start with the question, what are the challenges of marriage? And many times we challenge them to ask, what is the blessing of marriage?
That's a good one.
And if you familiarize with the blessing of marriage, if you get to know what really, really marriage portends for you, what was in God's mind concerning marriage, then you'll see that the blessing outweighs whatever challenge you can ever imagine. I can't imagine living single. Comparing, because I've been single before, comparing my single life and the married life, marriage has brought me so much of a blessing. It has grown me, it has made me closer to God, and so on. Society respects people who are married and are successful.
Yes.
Just know, you don't go very far in society if they can't prove that you're able to take care of a family relationship and so on. Marriage is a blessing. Familiarize with the blessing of marriage before you familiarize with the challenges of marriage.
Awesome.
Yes.
You guys are a blessing. Asanteni sana. Thank you for coming through. Maswali tumejibu. I hope you've been able to get something. I love what both of them have said. Marriage is a blessing. Familiarize yourself with the blessing of marriage. Haya, clinic ninafunga. Madaktari wanaenda kuhudumia, kuna watu wengine huku wako na emergency. So lazima washughulikiwe. Until next week for another session on the Relationship Clinic. Thank you for watching. Do have a great day.
Thank you for watching. Remember, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can get notified whenever we upload new fresh content every day. Stay tuned and enjoy fresh, uplifting content.